Excellent teacher status became effective in schools from September 2006 and helps experienced teachers remain in the classroom without having to take on managerial roles. In a first for Teachers TV, we have gained unique access to the National Assessment Agency's Project Director, Martin Flatman, to follow the half-day assessment process for excellent teachers. Jane Pittman has been teaching since 1988 and is currently curriculum manager for history. Chris Reen has been teaching science since he graduated in 1998. And Mimi Woods is head of French. Martin has agreed to observe these three teachers from Ratton School in Eastbourne to see if they meet the required criteria. A key part of the assessment process is Martin's observation of each candidate's lessons.
Whoa, look at that. Now, here are the objectives. By the end of the lesson, hopefully, time willing, you'll know the term pathogen and be able to give examples of pathogens. Look, you see that quite a few times. Appreciate the size of pathogens, and I've got something quite, it looks quite dodgy actually on the website. Know the time scale of microbial growth, which is pretty riveting. Don't know where the sheets are at the moment, but I'm sure I'll find them in a minute. And begin to understand about the transmission of pathogens. This 18th century kit was useful for drilling a hole in the patient's skull to sort of let things out. Does anybody know what that's called? Yes?
Brain surgery.
It could be. It begins with T and ends in Rapani. Yeah, well done.
Any aspiring candidate's application must be endorsed by their school's head teacher. So Ratton's David Linsell has joined Martin to listen to his feedback on Chris's science lesson from earlier that day.
It's quite useful that we're doing about diseases and things because I am a poorly bunny at the moment.
Aww.
So my throat, I'm suffering with my throat.
You've got that weird stuff.
I'm suffering with my throat. It's worse than that. Not that bad. Okay, now, there's some diseases you can't catch, but you have them. And we did that in the B1 topic, if you remember, that you actually did quite well in, that you can have things from the start. Can anybody remember the names of the genetic diseases that was in that module? Oh, look! Million, a sea of hands, look. Clever stuff, think so. Yeah.
Huntington.
Huntington's disease, fantastic, and... and
That's it.
cystic fibrosis, well done. If you'd have said CF, you'd have got away with it.
I thought your introduction to the whole of the new unit was quite superb.
You'll know the term pathogen and be able to give examples of pathogens. Look.
It was skillful because you introduced new language very carefully and explained very fully the new words that were coming through. Your board work was good, you had PowerPoint, you used many different techniques just to capture their interest. Strong sense of humour.
That's what I rely on.
Well, we'll come back to that, Chris.
It was written in 1570 and it's 20 metres long. They must have been really ill. And there are over 700 remedies on there. Look at that. Many diseases.
This lesson plan is well thought through. What I like about it is there's many examples, for example, of differentiation. There are clear learning objectives, there's clear desired outcomes, and it is planned very methodically and almost clinically. But when you deliver the lesson, it wasn't clinical, it was actually creative and imaginative.
Yeah.
The other aspect, the practical, the experiment, there was a lovely element of mystery and what is actually going on here, and suddenly the mystery unfolded, and the light dawned, and that was very good. One or two points for development that did concern me. Pupils were quite noisy throughout. Yeah. Sometimes I would judge to be positively noisy, excitement and on the topic. There are other occasions when youngsters weren't with you and they were talking about other things and planning what was going to go on tonight, etc., etc.
Yeah, I think on the whole, they are a very bubbly group, and they are like that most of the time.
Yes.
And that's as hard, if not harder, to control and maintain than a group who are less well behaved. How many people do you think
Summary, however, a thorough, well-planned lesson, well-prepared lesson, an interesting lesson in which pupils learned much and deeply about microorganisms and their reproduction. So, do you think this teacher is a really good one?
Yeah, he's my favourite teacher.
Yeah, same.
Is he?
Yeah,
Why?
same.
He's just fun to
How
be
he
with.
teaches, he's funny as well.
Yeah.
So
But are you learning?
yeah.
I mean, I like fun, but I don't always learn when I have fun.
Yeah, my grades are getting better as well with him.
They are?
Yeah.
Good.
Martin then observes Jane's history lesson.
Can you see how Martin Luther King eventually would be moved to speak out against that?
I wonder if we could talk about your lesson on changing public opinion in 1968. There were a number of strengths, but before I launch in and give you what I've written down here, tell me what you thought were the strengths.
I think quite a lot of the children actively participated, not
Yes.
all of them, but a number of them. I
Yes.
think the responses they gave were quite thoughtful.
The feeling that they might not actually win the war and that they aren't in as control as they thought they would be.
Excellent point, well done. Does anyone know what TET is? Anyone remember? I have mentioned it once, I think, but I wouldn't expect you necessarily to remember. Go on then, Hugh, have a go.
Wasn't that where all the North Vietnam attacked South Vietnam
That
at
is
once?
what happened on the TET offensive. Yeah, that's excellent. Do you know what
There's some things that you've clearly taken for granted, or to your credit to you. The behaviour of the pupils was quite exemplary.
Yeah, they are.
You had their attention all the time. Secondly, your questioning. You ensured that a variety of children were given the opportunity to give their answer. And when they gave you an answer, you probed a little deeper to assess whether they were really understanding.
What actually did happen to black soldiers in Vietnam?
Black soldiers are made to go and fight in the front rows, so they got killed first, but instead of the white people.
Yes, I think that did happen sometimes. Excellent. Can anyone think of the wider point about black soldiers in Vietnam?
You brought in other matters, clearly important matters to any lesson. Matters of morality. You talked about suffering, yes? You talked about Martin Luther King. You talked about the black soldiers going in at the front. I was also pleased to see the quality of the lesson material and the exercises they were later to follow.
Martin then observes Mimi's French lesson.
Le salon. Numéro 3, le salon.
Enjoyed your lesson very much this morning. How did you feel about it?
I was quite happy with it, actually. William, viens ici. Tu viens tenir son papier, George? The key strengths, I think, was the presentation that the children did, being able to talk about their homes with confidence, from memory, on a topic that we've only been doing for 2.5 weeks.
Yes.
And also, I'm quite pleased with the way they're able to spell easily, and we use the French alphabet. Allez, vas-y.
Ça s'écrit L-A-N-I-C-H-E.
Excellent.
A little disappointment for me was that in that lesson I didn't see any ICT. Would it not have been enriched if you had used some software or computer technology?
Not particularly in this lesson, no, because this was a reinforcement lesson of everything that we've done, and they have had access to ICT, and also when they've prepared the presentation, a lot of them have used ICT for that.
You're strong on rewarding.
Bravo, bravo, Beth. Bon, un garçon.
Lots of praise, lots of affirmation. Fantastique. Bravo. Excellent. Yes.
Yeah.
Many times you said that. They understood that and they responded. They smiled. It encouraged them. It motivated them to come out to the front to present. Great strength.
Yeah.
Slight concern that the lesson plan was not detailed and it possibly didn't do you justice.
How do you mean?
The lesson itself
Yes.
was much better than what you had indicated on the lesson plan.
I don't see the lesson plan as key to my lesson. It's something that's in the background, and if I can make it more detailed. I could have spent a lot more time writing all sorts of information that I don't need to write on it. So I'm glad that the lesson flowed the way that it flowed. And as far as recording the levels, I know what their levels are, the children know their own levels, and the fact that I'm going to write it on another piece of paper, it's neither here nor there.
Overall, that was a very good lesson. Summed up with consistent in your approach, persistent in your pursuit of knowledge and understanding of people, focused, and very thorough.
In addition to the lesson observation, there are 6 standards each candidate must meet to an excellent degree. These are assessed by interview. So how will our teachers do?
Jane, excellent results and outcomes is the first standard.
Okay.
You make a number of wonderful claims, delightful to read. You say, for example, you have the highest residual scores in the whole school.
Yeah, this refers to Year 11 classes, where the results in each subject are compared to one another. And a calculation is done as to how children perform in one subject compared to another. And last year, in my Year 11 history group, the residual came out at +6, which means, in effect, one whole GCSE grade higher on average than they were achieving in other subjects. And for the boys, it was almost 1.5 grades.
For boys?
Yes.
That's
so boys
splendid.
did particularly well.
I need reassurance from you that the pupils always respond really positively and really love your history.
In Year 9, when they take their options, history has been the most popular option choice for probably 5 years now. So we've got 80+ children opting for GCSE history year on year. They tell us that's because they enjoy the subject. They tell us it's because the work's differentiated successfully so they can all access the curriculum. They tell us it's because they enjoy the topic. They find history in itself interesting. But they tell us as well it's because it's well taught right across the department.
So what would you say is the key ingredient of your pupils gaining excellent results?
I think I create a feeling that we're all in this together, that we've got the same aims. I don't think they see it as I've got a body of knowledge that I want to teach them.
Why is he not going to stand for election?
I hope they think that, it's enjoyable to be in this lesson, it's interesting to find out there are ways that I can contribute to what I'm learning. So I do a lot of discussion work, a lot of trying to engage the children. I think a lot of it is down to communication skills and how you form a relationship with the classes that you teach.
Tell me about the strengths of your subject knowledge and your specialist knowledge.
Well, my subject and specialist knowledge are extremely good because I am bilingual.
Le salon. Numéro 3, le salon.
And it's a huge advantage as far as teaching is concerned, because both languages are there are lots of similarities but lots of differences, and it's key actually to teaching to have a deep understanding of both, and obviously to feel secure when I teach, and which isn't something one always finds. But I've set up a consortium across the local schools, specifically for MFL teachers and anybody else who's interested, to share good practice, to talk about good practice, to share resources, and also we can share speakers. The other thing I'd quite like to do is to set up a local website, because there are websites around the country that I've looked at, and I'd quite like to set one up for MFL teachers. It can be a forum for discussion, it can be a way of sharing assessment, because I think there are too many things that are done differently in different schools, and it's a way to sort of bring it to a focus.
Tell me what you bring to the group, what the strength of, what drives you to do it, and what do you inject into the group or share with the group?
In interest, I mean, I'm very creative and I share a lot of resources with the group, and I think it's key that we don't teach as a bubble, that we work as closely with other teachers as possible. I mean, I'm very easily bored, and I think really that pupils would be extremely bored if you just textbook bone dry year after year. So I create a lot of my resources.
Mimi, we're looking now at excellent ability to plan, which is standard 3 of the excellent teacher. And I have some questions on your planning. Could you tell me first of all the importance to you of preparing for lessons?
Right, well, obviously to me preparing for a lesson is vital, but not from the paper exercise angle. I view planning from the class I have in front of me, and not from my lesson plan, because with the language I feel that I'd rather, if the situation allows or needs, that I develop a certain point within a lesson. I need to have the freedom to go off and follow a line that's appropriate with the pupils.
Is it the value of the lesson plan you are questioning, or the value of the use of the lesson plan, or...?
I feel that the lesson plan has a value probably for new teachers who need to focus themselves on what they're doing and where they're going, and probably for time management. But as far as I'm concerned, I will use it as a guideline, and I will always allow myself the freedom to throw it out of the window if I want to.
So what to you is the essence of excellent lesson planning?
Excellent planning is, number one, the subject knowledge that I have, and see whether what I've got planned is going to go down well. So I will not pitch my lesson necessarily to the middle of the class. I'll pitch it to the top and drag everybody along with that momentum. I think there's a danger of creating a boring situation for children who've done something before, who are gifted and talented. So my pitching is always near the top, and my expectations are very high.
Tell me about the planning of homework.
Well, I mean, often it's by outcome and my expectations, and I give them different styles of homework, which means then they can sort of maximise the potential that they have.
Voilà ma maison. Voilà le garage. Voilà le porte d'entrée. À droite, la chambre. À gauche.
I think different styles of homework. I might say, look at this website and have a go at these games, and it will be reinforcing things that we've done on a particular topic.
Standard 4 of the excellent teacher, which is excellent ability to teach, manage pupils and maintain discipline.
I think the essence of excellent teaching really is to bring something of yourself into it. I rely quite heavily on this personality and spark to get the kids inspired, and I think I do it really well.
Disease-causing organism.
A disease-causing organism. And can you give me an example? Oh.
Bacteria.
Well done.
Will you talk me through some of the methodologies that you adopt in your teaching with different pupils?
Yes, I do a lot of role play in my lessons, a lot of group work, individual work, where they can, a lot of peer learning from that as well, which I find quite interesting. What happens when you add iodine to starch? It goes black. Okay. Now the person who had that to start off with, yes, that would go black. And nobody else's would have done, first of all. Let's just try this. So these haven't been infected. I'm just going to squidge some iodine in there. Okay, nothing. Okay, there is a colour change, but it's the same colour as the iodine. It's like a yellowy colour. Okay. Now the person who I infected, because I'm sure that she wouldn't have minded, was Rasheen. It's about enthusing. It's about motivating. Really, it's bringing your subject to life.
Tell me how you use, say, ICT to really good effect and to promote sustained learning.
Well, I use ICT myself as a teaching tool. I use a lot of PowerPoints, some that are pre-made, but I make a lot of my own as well. And I try and encourage my students to do the same thing. There's lots of food about, there's water, so it's like you. So basically, all living things need the same stuff.
Final question in this section is about maintaining the respect of the pupils and maintaining your respect for the pupils and the discipline that follows. What's the secret?
I think, again, it's enthusing. If you can enthuse the children that you're teaching, then they're going to want to learn, and they're going to want to behave themselves.
First of all, let me ask you about the way you diagnose pupils' learning needs. How do you go about that?
I feel with assessment, being such an integral part of the teaching and learning process, it isn't just about having things written down all the time. It's not just about reports. It's not just about having written targets in the exercise books. The assessment happens all of the time, and you can obviously see a lot by the students in action, and then build on that. To the one that I had. Look at this. We're going to have to sort of put a posy on the door and a cross or something. Diseased area.
Can you show me any evidence today of your previous assessments and evaluations of your own lessons or modules?
Well, I do often jot things down. You don't often have time to do that, which everyone will appreciate. But sometimes if something has worked well or not so well, you know, I just have a little notebook and I jot that down so I know how to improve next time, really.
Is it not more important than that?
It is more important than that. I think it's something about sharing good practice with your peers as well.
Yes.
You know, that's just for yourself, and that's important.
Yes.
But, you know, in departmental meetings and things, just sort of sharing ideas and saying, what about this and what about that? And the most important people that you learn from and can improve is the kids. Because they'll tell you whether they understand something or not and whether the lesson was good or crap.
And do you find it interesting?
Yeah, it's more interesting with this, and he has a way of getting our attention.
Right, yes, I can see that. What about the homework? Do you have much homework?
Yeah, lately we've been given a project to do.
Yes.
Which we've got over half term, luckily.
Yes.
It's where we go through different things. It's our physics project.
Yes.
Go over different things like why the dinosaurs became extinct and things like that.
Finally, about you taking into consideration the school's wider targets and the recommendations from the most recent Ofsted report.
Yes.
Do you take those seriously into consideration in your teaching?
Well, with school targets, you know, we have regular staff meetings, and you know, this is sort of filtered down to us, I will say. And with the inspection evidence, there weren't any major concerns in the last report, so.
Jane, the sixth standard is his excellent ability to advise and support other teachers.
Yes.
You talk in your application form about your work with 4 NQTs. Would you like to tell me about that?
Over the past 3 years, there have been 4 NQTs in the history department. 2 of them have already gone on to promotion, and 2 are currently here. So obviously I've been a mentor to some of those individuals. And I think, you know, the main issue that's come out really is advice on classroom management, and I think, you know, you'd expect that. So what I've been working with them about is classroom management strategies and things like that. So quite often I've used the idea of sort of modelling, so I've said, come and watch my lessons. I'm not saying that no one ever misbehaves in my lessons, but, you know, the strategies for coping with that misbehaviour, what they are, have a look at them, see which ones you think you could adapt to use for yourself successfully. I mean, the good thing is now that I feel that the people that I've been working with, you know, they're now able to offer me advice, because people who are new in the profession, you know, have got great ideas and so on, and I think I see it very much as a sort of team exercise. So yes, it's about helping other people, but in return you get help back.
Could you give me any indication, Jane, of how much time you spend on this coaching and mentoring compared with the rest of your working week?
I would say probably I would put aside definitely 1 session per week timetabled for mentoring, and then probably two hours on top of that.
Yeah.
It's quite difficult to fit everything in because I work part-time. I work on a 0.8 contract, so there's even less days to contract everything into. I would say
fine. We welcome excellent teachers who are part-time.
That's great, because I think part-time teachers often get overlooked, don't they?
So, what did our potential candidates feel about the half-day assessment process and Martin's observations?
I'm much more a people person than a form-filling person. I don't know whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, but, you know, that's where my strengths lie, I think.
As an interview process, it's very interesting and very rigorous.
I like the fact that it covers all different aspects, including the classroom observation, I think, because, you know, obviously what goes on in the classroom is very important. So yeah, it's a rigorous procedure that you'd have to take seriously, but I think it's a fair procedure that gives you a chance to show your strengths in lots of areas.
The Excellent Teacher Scheme is something that I would think about doing in the very near future, and because it's something you do on the job, as you like, within the classroom, then it's something that I would definitely want to go for, because it means that you can stay in the classroom and teach and do what you're good at.
At the end of the half-day observation, Martin reveals his findings and whether excellent teacher status has been met.
Criteria for the excellent teacher has not been met overall. However, there are significant strengths and some significant weaknesses. Tremendous strength in the results that the pupils of these teachers have attained. Pupils have done their teachers proud with it.
Non, écrit.
Second strength is actually the second standard. It's the subject knowledge and expertise of the teachers. Up to date and excellent in their subject knowledge and expertise. When it comes to the third standard, there's some work to do here. The lesson planning is good, it's not excellent. And it's so important that the planning of the full range of ability is high on the agenda in any lesson. The teaching and managing in discipline is also a little bit on the cusp here. The weaker area in assessment and evaluation is that there was little evidence of teachers consistently and critically evaluating their own lessons.
Toute la classe aura un.
And the last standard, absolutely splendid. There's clearly a culture in this school of teachers, supporting other teachers and sharing good practice. All the teachers that I have seen are good teachers. They're committed teachers. They're contributing much to pupils and they're a credit to your school.
More detailed information and links to the Excellent Teacher Scheme can be found on the Teachers TV website at www.teachers.tv.